G'day folks, Scott here. Welcome to another video and welcome to the next part in my retrospective review series of the Alien franchise. Today we are doing the 1997, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, Alien Resurrection. Sorry if I mispronounced his name, but there you go. Now this guy as a director had previously made Delicatessen and The City of Lost Children. Very successful, very cool French movies. If you've never seen either of those films, which are dark comedies, but they're very cool, very well shot, interesting movies, then you should definitely check them out. They're great. I thought he was not the right guy to make an Alien film. Now, this film was written by Joss Whedon. I also think there's elements of that was a good idea. There's elements of that perhaps weren't. Don't get me wrong, I love Joss Whedon. I like Buffy, I like Firefly and Serenity. Cabin in the Woods was okay. I think he did a great job with the two Avengers movies. I'm not bagging the guy. He's just maybe not the right guy for this franchise. And by that I mean this movie again had a lot of production woes when it came to the story and which direction they were going to go. Again, check out the DVDs. As I've said with all the other ones, there's two versions of the movie. There's not a lot of difference between them really. Like for the most part, it's the intro scene that's different. But theatrical cut's fine. But for me, it's a little too pretending to be funny for my liking as overall with the movie. Now, they came up with as good a plan as any to write Ripley's character back into the story again. Obviously, killing her off at the end of Alien 3 left this series without its biggest star, and the studio clearly panicked and decided, oh, what are we without Sigourney Weaver? And Sigourney had done an incredible job in this franchise in the lead up. I'm certainly not bagging her out either, but part of me feels like this series isn't called Ripley. It's called Alien. And it's called Alien for a reason. It's about them, So maybe it would have been a good time then to try and introduce a new character and take the franchise in a different direction, but that's not the way they decided to go. The studio decided to play it safe, so they wrote her back in. Now, considering the tragic misuse of storytelling from Aliens to Alien 3, which I went on and on about in my last video, the way they wrote her back into this in the grand scheme of things isn't awful. In Alien 3, when she went into the crashed escape module that their cryo chambers were in, and she used a medical scanner on there to find out what was wrong with her because she thought she just had hibernation sickness, and it turned out she had an alien inside of her. That test also did a blood test apparently, and the company got hold of that blood test and used that to clone Ripley. Now, she ended up being the 8th clone, I can't even show 8 fingers, out of this range, and at some point in the movie you get to see all these tragic mistakes they'd made trying to get Ripley back, but the entire point was that they cloned her back to retrieve the alien from her, as they've always wanted throughout all these movies for their bioweapons division. But the unseen side effect of having cloned her was that bringing her back mixed her DNA with alien DNA. So she has mild acid for blood, alien senses, she's much, much stronger and quicker. And that was a pretty cool element. Like, I didn't mind all of that. It's kind of weird how, for one part of the movie, it seems like the aliens want to kill her and she wants to kill them. When they first break out in this thing and they're running around doing their thing, they're beating the shit out of this door to her cell trying to get to her, and she has like a little thing she does to escape and get away from them. Yet later on there are literally like this really strange kind of erotic cuddly scene where they transfer her off to be taken to the Queen's Nest and stuff, and at that point they clearly mean her no harm. Now, the thing I do like about this film was that they finally had what had been a big thing in the comic books for a long time was, the corporation being, Weyland-Yutani. By this time, it's so far in the future, it's just a military military privatized thing, but for them to get their hands on the alien and actually start developing it, you finally see that in this film, and it's really cool. Brad Dourif is amazing in this film as one of the doctors who retrieves the alien from her and does a lot of the testing. There's some great scenes with these pods that the aliens are in, and he's interacting with them and fucking around with them, and their escape is really cool, and there's some really good stuff. The crew of the ship, the Betty, who come in through this, that has some really cool actors like Ron Perlman and Michael Wincott and Winona Ryder, has the I can't remember his name, but the little French fella from Delicatessen from the film this guy had made previously. Like, I really like the crew on that ship. They're all cool characters and everything. The twist in this movie was that Winona Ryder was the android in this film, and they played that out for a long time before they showed it. They were all fine. The interaction with Ripley was all fine. My problem was they muted the aliens. The aliens were so piss weak in this once they actually got out. There's this ridiculous scene where the captain of the ship is watching all the escape pods jettison, and he's throwing a grenade in one and it's gone out, and he's saluting them as it blows up in space. And this alien like creeps up behind him like some kind of stalking thing and does the whole tongue bite into the back of his head, and then just stands there just waiting as he slowly reaches back to his head and pulls out a bit of a brain and sort of looks at it and then dies. Now, for me, that scene is directly ripped off from Peter Jackson's first movie, Bad Taste, that came out in the late 80s, where the main character, played by Peter Jackson, Derek, like falls off a cliff and smashes the back of his head open and reaches back there and finds brain and like freaks out, but he pokes it back in and like ties his head up so that it's closed, and that's a running gag throughout the rest of the movie. I feel that this was maybe a nod or reference to it, but it was silly and out of place, and it wasn't great, you know. Like, I just spent a lot of time in my review for Alien 3 talking about how just vicious and ferocious the alien was in that, whereas this one, it's patiently waiting behind him while he does his little joke thing, and then it's just gone. And there's lots of shots of the aliens kind of stalking slowly down corridors after people, and you know, they'd established in previous Alien films that the aliens' real prime thing was to get people and take them back to the nest so that they could impregnate more people and create a bigger hive. The exception to that, as I said, was in Alien 3, where there was no queen, there was no hive. It was literally just a lone alien, and that acted more like a lion stalking zebra than it did like the traditional hive-minded alien. Yet in this one, even though there is a queen and there is, you know, eggs and there is a hive, they're killing people in ridiculous ways, you know, biting people through the stomach with their tongues and all this kind of stuff, where they were kind of cool gore gags, I guess, but it was very out of context with the way that the creature had been established previously, and this constant trying to attempt to have humor for it, I really didn't think worked for it, and it didn't flow that well. Obviously, like, another huge thing that people either love or hate about this movie is the final alien in there. I understand that they wanted to bring something new to the table and to design something differently, but, you know, they have this, like, human hybrid alien baby thing that comes from the Queen as a result of being mixed with Ripley. Obviously, I said that Ripley inherited alien DNA through being cloned. Well, the aliens also inherited some of her from being cloned, which was a cool concept and you know, made sense of their connections. So, you know, at the end when they go into the nest and the Queen's there, she's transitioned from giving birth to eggs, the way she had laying eggs, the way she had previously, and has this gigantic big external womb kind of sac thing, and the baby alien comes out of that, and it's very, you know, strange to look at. Sometimes it looks kind of cool, sometimes it doesn't, but it completely just straight away kills its mother, but has this very clingy emotional kind of connection to Ripley, which plays out over the rest of the film. Now, the film is pretty gory. It's probably the goriest of the Alien films up until that point. But I find the humor kind of soften the gore. There's some pretty cool effects in there. The CG certainly was immensely better than it was in Alien 3. There's a couple of cool shots of the aliens swimming and stuff that wasn't too bad. But again, the one thing that's happened over the course of the Alien films is the inconsistency of how long from when a facehugger jumps on somebody until that chest burster were to come out. In the first film, it was one amount of time. In the second film, it was another amount of time. In the third film, they made the mistake. The excuse of it taking so long to come out of Ripley was the fact that it was a queen and not a drone, so perhaps it took longer for her to gestate. But in this one, from the time these bodies are impregnated to the time there's full-sized aliens running around, it's a ludicrously short amount of time. But the effects were Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr. They did a great job. The practical aliens are fantastic in this. They look really good. They really increased the amount of slime and dripping that they did. And, you know, the baby alien, you either love it or hate it, but it was still a pretty cool and well done effect. You know, it had very emotional eyes when it was lit in a certain way, and that. I wasn't a big fan of its mouth, but they went away from the tongue mouth and had a more human kind of mouth with more human looking teeth instead of the chrome teeth that they'd been established with previously. It's not an awful movie. It's just not a great movie. Up until that point, I definitely think it was the weakest film of the franchise, but it's still not a complete piece of shit. It's just, you know, it's definitely a downward slope from where we began to where we got to by 1997 when they made this film. I don't have that much more to say about it, so if you haven't seen it, check it out. If you have and, you know, you liked it, then chances are, like me, you kept going with the next movies I'll be reviewing in the next review. So as always, thanks for watching. I'll be back for another review real soon. I'm going to be doing Alien versus Predator 1 and 2.